Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. I just want to thank all my old subscribers and welcome my new subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified when I upload videos. So it's about the end of September, not quite, and our garden is coming to a close. We have been busy over the last couple of weeks, canning up things, freezing things, not really freezing things, canning things, preserving things, dehydrating things, just about everything you could think of coming out of our garden, we either dehydrated or canned. And today I have a lot of green tomatoes that I don't think are gonna ripen because it's cold nights now. Well, in the 40s, upper 40s, middle to upper 40s, and it's a lot of rain. We've had quite a bit of rain. So I decided that it's the time now to do something with my green tomatoes. Now, here is what I have. I've gotten out of the garden today. There are some blush tomatoes. There's a lot of green tomatoes. I have some peppers and different things. I usually either put them in the window here, or in the past, like the blush ones, I'll put in the window and just ripen. My poor avocado, it's not going to do anything, but I can always hope. And I have some peppers that I want to cut up and dehydrate in my sun oven. So I'm going to be doing that. So the peppers in the sun oven dehydrating, and I'll leave them in there for about an hour and a half or so. It's a beautiful, sunny, sort of overcast day, but it's still warm. And all these tomatoes in my garden, as you will see, this is the garden. It's pretty much donezo, but there's a few things that's still coming out of there, including these really good sized green tomatoes that I don't think are going to be able to ripen out here because it is so cold nights. I have cherry tomatoes coming out of every crack and crevice, more peppers, more tomatoes, and I don't know where the cherry tomatoes came from because we didn't plant any this year. And these ones are starting to die out. We dug up our potatoes. There are some more tomatoes here that I don't think are going to make it even as green tomatoes. They're really small, but the ones that are blush, I'm going to pick those and I'm going to put them in the window like these ones here. This is a blush one. I'm going to put that in the window to ripen. I have in the past canned pickled green tomatoes. We don't like them as much. I'm trying to use them up. So I've decided not to do any more that way because it's not something we typically like to eat. And I found other ways to try and use them up, but instead of doing that, I found a great way to use up your green tomatoes. If you have a good bit of green tomatoes, and these poor squash and things, they're just dead. So as you can see, my grass is pretty much getting brown as well. Strawberries are still coming, surprisingly. I get like one or two of those every morning, and I just put it with my breakfast. But I've got a few things over here that need to be done. There's carrots here, there's leeks, more tomatoes. There is some celery that needs to be picked and canned. I've got peppers, and more peppers. These ones, the plant actually died. These tomatoes, the plant is dying, but there's some good green ones. And I'm actually really excited about my green harvest this year, more than my red, because I did do stewed tomatoes, diced tomatoes. What else did I do? I did salsa, red salsa, and basically canned just about everything. I did greens, Swiss chard, I did purple spinach, everything. And now it's coming to an end, like I said, and I need to do something with these green tomatoes. So I actually last year found this recipe in my bowl book. Salsa Verde is not the traditional one because it doesn't use the tomatillos. It actually uses green tomatoes. Now I made it last year for the first time and we absolutely love it. So all the other ingredients are pretty much going to come out of my garden or are being pulled out of my garden. The onions, the garlic, the other than the cumin and oregano, I actually have some dried, so I have that. I don't have any cumin, black pepper, salt, of course, I don't have that. But everything else, the onions, everything, and the lemon juice, I don't have that. But everything else is coming out of the garden. So I'm going to get my ingredients together and we are going to get started. And these ripe ones, I'm actually just going to dice up and can those because I've done so many stewed tomatoes and everything else that, yeah, I'm just going to use the green ones in my Salsa Verde and the other ones I'm just going to can up. So let's get started. So I tried to order one of those little fancy tomato cores on Amazon, but they were out of them. So, and the next one was like twice as much as the one I wanted, so that wasn't happening. So I just take a little paring knife and cut my core out, and I find it really easy with these green tomatoes. And then I just score an X on the bottom, and that is it. When I go to boil them, I do boil them a little longer than my red fully ripe tomatoes. I boil these probably between 5 and 8 minutes, depending on how tough that skin is to get off. So I basically just take my little paring knife, core them, and then just score an X in the bottom, and pretty much at 5 minutes my skins just work their way off. Sometimes it's a little harder. I'll just drop it back into the boiling water, and sometimes it's pretty easy. So right around 5 minutes boiling time, and my skins are pretty easy to come off. As you can see, my skins are starting to pull away already, so they're really easy to peel at this point. I just drop them in a sink of cold water to help that process. So by far the longest and most tedious part of this operation was peeling them. So now that I have them all peeled, I'm just going to dice them up and I'm going to put them in my measuring cup because I'm trying to gauge how much more other ingredients I need. And then I'm going to put everything in my pot, but we'll see how many green tomatoes we get. And then I'm going to put them in my pot and get them on the stove to start cooking. So here I have, this is an 8-cup measurement. I have 8 cups already in my pot, and here I have 5 more cups in my measuring cups here, and I'm going to see how many more cups I can get. And then once I do that, I'm going to put them in my pot, and then I'm going to measure out the rest of my ingredients. So in my pot, I got a total of 13 cups of green tomatoes. I have my onions. I have my jalapeno peppers. I did put a little spicier pepper in there as well. And I have my crushed up garlic. So now I'm going to put it on a medium to high heat and bring this to a boil for about 5 minutes. I want to also add my lemon juice at this time. So I'm going to get that in and bring everything into a full rolling boil, as well as stir it up, make sure nothing burns or anything like that. Get everything stirring up, and then cook this for about 5 minutes on a medium high heat. Now that I've brought those ingredients to a boil, I'm going to add in my freshly chopped cilantro. And doing this one-handed didn't quite work, so I'm going to have to put the camera down and get it in there. And once I do that, I'm going to add in my pepper, my salt, and my cumin and oregano. So all those spices are going to go in, and once I get that all mixed in and incorporated, I'm going to let this boil for another 10 minutes or so, and then it's as easy as that, and it's ready to be jarred up and processed. And this can be done in a water bath canner, so it's easy. You don't have to drag out your pressure canner and do all that. If you have a water bath canner, you can definitely do this with your green tomato harvest. So this is it done, and it's ready to be jarred up now. Doesn't that look delicious? I know it smells delicious, but I have my canner here and my sterilized jars, so I'm going to get them canned up, and you want everything to be hot. I have my warm lids, my vinegar, I have my canning funnel and everything that goes into it. My jars are hot, my salsa is hot, and I'm just ladling it in and making sure I debubble. Very important when canning chunky product like this. Get all those air bubbles out, and make sure you wipe your ribs to get a good consistent seal on your lids to your jars. You want to make sure your ribs are really clean. So that's what I'm gonna do. And you want to make sure you use, you could use water, but something to cut any food or anything like that. Vinegar is really good for doing that. So I use a damp, it's actually a paper towel with some vinegar on it. So once you have your jars wiped down, you put your lid on, and then you put your rig on fingertip tight. You don't want to wrench it down. So here I'm showing you that little bit of food on the side of the jar is enough to stop your seal from totally taking effect. And you don't want that to happen. So make sure you wipe your jars down, and especially around the upper rim. So now that I have all my jars filled up, into the water bath canner they go. Here is the last one, and out of 13 cups of green tomatoes, and these are pint-sized jars, I got 2, 4, 8 pints. I had to count for a minute. So I got 8 pints out of 13 cups of green tomatoes. So sorry about that, it's fogging up a little bit. So now they are completely processed, and they are ready to come out of the canner, and I'm gonna sit them on my counter overnight, and I'll just cover them because my counters really, my kitchen is cold and I don't want anything to happen. So now it's the next morning, and they are going to be washed, and make sure that my seal is tight. And I do what I call the fingertip test. I just lift the jar up by my fingertips. If it holds, it's good. If it doesn't, which I've had happen, then I actually put it in my fridge and use it right away. Now here are my jars, labeled and dated, ready to go into my cold room, which is a room that I have in my basement for my home canned items. It's about 10 degrees colder than my regular basement. And yeah, doesn't that look beautiful, nice, and ready to use? Salsa Verde from green tomatoes. Oh, so good. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified when I upload videos.